Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live event. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful December evening. I acknowledge how busy you are at this time of year, so thanks for listening in. By way of introduction, I'm Emma Gaynor, the National Support Manager here at Melanoma Patients Australia. I'm joined today by two special guests who both play important parts in our MPA community, peer support volunteer Audrey Colbert and MPA Ambassador Jessica Stafford. This is a very exciting event for us. Not only is it because we're about to launch a new and very important support service offering at MPA, but because it's our first ever Facebook Live on our organisation page. Before we proceed, I would like to take and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we are hosting today, and I'm on the land of the Yugambeh language people on the Gold Coast. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who may be watching today. As you are likely to already know as a follower of our Facebook page, Melanoma Patients Australia, also commonly referred to as MPA, is an independent not-for-profit charity dedicated to supporting and representing those affected by melanoma. MPA was developed by patients for patients in 2006 with a vision to create a world where no one affected by melanoma walks alone. All our activities continue to strive towards this vision, with services available for patients, carers, and family members at any stage of the melanoma journey, free of charge with a national reach. Through the ongoing advances in treatment in melanoma, it's estimated by 2030, the number of long-term melanoma survivors in Australia is expected to double. This is very welcoming news. However, it comes alongside the urgent need for patient support organisations like us at MPA to build a support service delivery base to ensure we have the most up-to-date and effective support programs available to meet this demand. That brings us to the core of why we're here today, and that's to launch our Melanoma Patients Australia new peer support program, Listening Link. This program could not have been possible without the support of our sponsors, Apex Foundation, Bristol Myers Squibb, PFAB and MSD. I would like to please acknowledge and thank them all for their contribution in the development and implementation of this program. Listening Link is a one-on-one telephone-based peer support program connecting those affected by melanoma, and this is not only just patients, it's carers and family members as well, with a trained peer support volunteer who's been through similar experiences. Peer support volunteers provide a unique perspective, providing emotional support and insight from their own journeys, complementing the existing support networks that they may have from family, friends, and of course their health professionals, rather than replacing it. In a fully confidential space from the comfort of their own home, these listening links may last one call or may become an ongoing pillar of support, all based on the needs of each person. Listening Link now joins a suite of peer support offerings available through MPA, and alongside support groups that we have already in person, virtual, and telephone in nature, as well as our large online community on Facebook, this personalised one-on-one option works towards ensuring MPA is meeting the individual needs and preferences of our community members, all whilst building the support services to meet the growing demand, particularly as we move towards 2030. For the special guests we are lucky to have with us today, they are both a part of our melanoma community, but have walked and continue to walk their own unique journeys. With the launch of Listening Link this evening, I look forward to hearing more about these patient journeys and to find out a bit about their interactions and thoughts on the power of peer support and those affected by melanoma and the impact that it has had on themselves. Without any further ado, I would therefore like to welcome Jessica Stafford, our MPA Ambassador, and Audrey Colbert, Volunteer Peer Support Facilitator. Jess, would you like to share a little bit about your journey to get us off the ground today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emma. Thanks for having me today. So look, I was 37 when I got my diagnosis. I went to a dermatologist for for something else, not for a skin check or anything skin cancer related. While I was there, he suggested that I have a skin check. As it was free and that's what he specialised in. I said, sure, why not? I'd only had one 6 months prior and it was fine. And I'd only ever had two in my life. So that was my third, and I wasn't obviously really responsible in that way and didn't really realise the importance of it. So I said, yep, sure. He did the check. he said, okay, I've seen something on the back of your leg. I wouldn't mind taking a biopsy when you come back in 2 days to have this other procedure done. It was just getting a little skin tag taken off my face. It was cosmetic more than anything. So I went in, had that procedure done, had the biopsy, went home. I didn't even look at the mole. It was on the back of my right thigh. I still wasn't interested, didn't realize how important this was. He gave me some ointment to put on both wounds and said, I'll see you in a week. And I did notice that the one on the back of my leg just wasn't healing. You know, it was so tiny, but there was something not quite right. Again, still didn't click. And I got a call probably, I think, about 2 days later. So earlier than I'd expected, asking me to come in. And yeah, he told me that he said, want the good or the bad news? Good news is it's absolute first stage in situ. Bad news is it's melanoma. So worst one you can get, but you've got it early. So you're very lucky. And I still did not understand what melanoma was. Had a really, he had to explain that to me. I thought it was a blanket term for skin cancer. I was so ignorant to it, so uneducated to it. So I was in quite a bit of shock when I realized like what it was I was dealing with then. And yeah, I had surgery, I think like 36 hours later. And luckily it was all taken with wide margins, all clear. That was 7 years ago now. I'm on 3 monthly checks with the same doctor. I've since had a few BCCs and a few Nevis, are they, taken out as well. But so far, so good. So I'm very lucky and very, very fortunate. I'm very grateful. And wow, am I educated now? So that's, I guess, a reason why I'm so happy to get involved with anything with MPA, just to spread that awareness. So there are other, people maybe in that age group or younger that they just don't realize the consequences of suntanning and, not having regular skin checks. So yeah, I'm lucky, and I want others to not have to rely on luck like myself.
Absolutely. No, I hear you, Jessica. Definitely in that early stage, it's important that we're spreading the awareness of not just that later stage, but at every level. It's the importance is the same across the board. And what about you, Audrey? How does your, I guess, patient experience at the beginning and where you've come from differ from Jessica's there?
Sure. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be involved because I've actually found speaking about my experience part of my journey, and I love to share to make people aware. So I'm a wife and mum of 2 teenage boys. I live in Melbourne. For 30 odd years, I actually have done admin work, and I've just recently found what I think is my dream job, and I've started doing support work for the disabled and elderly. So I was first diagnosed in September 2019. I went to my GP to get a skin tag, what I thought was a skin tag removed. And I thought it was infected because it was like a little blister, but it was clear in colour. So I thought it was just an infection. I got that actually removed, and within 24 hours, my GP had called me and asked me to come in. I didn't think anything of it. Just like Jessica, I didn't have any photos or anything. I didn't think the spot was that important. And I was quite actually, blasé about it because I just didn't understand what I was actually going to face. So I was diagnosed in September. I had surgery to remove the spot and lymph nodes checked in October 2019. I was classed at stage 3C, that because I actually had an 8 millimeter nodular melanoma on my shoulder. And 8 millimeters is quite thick. A lot of the time people ask, do you mean 0.8 millimeters? And I say, no, 8 millimeters. And one of the lymph nodes was actually positive for melanoma. So I was offered to start immunotherapy treatment, which I did in December 2019. And I had that for 12 months. So it all started from September. My treatment was then happening in December. And I have actually just recently celebrated my 4 years of being clear since my surgery.
Wow, that's a great effort, Audrey. And I also acknowledge that treatment would have occurred through COVID as well. So there's that extra level of support that you'd be seeking as well, and the complexities that comes with having to go through that at COVID.
Most definitely, because in Melbourne we were locked down for a long time, so it was an extra stressful time, but
Absolutely.
it's something that I'm very grateful for our medical services.
Yeah. And you mentioned you were stage 3, so more progressed than what Jess's had been, and you said that you had to have immunotherapy because of that. Did you find yourself seeking support straight away? Where were you at when you got diagnosed from that point?
So as I mentioned, I actually didn't realise what I was in for. I was quite ignorant, and being red hair, blue eyes, fair skin, I always knew about being sun smart, but I didn't really know a lot about melanoma. So when the doctor had told me it was melanoma, I actually went into a head spin, and I actually was quite distressed because I thought it was a death sentence. I just remember the word melanoma being really bad. I was actually making myself so sick through worry that I did go looking for support straight away. And that's when I came across the closed Facebook group.
Yep.
And through that, I actually started messenger chatting with one of the ladies. And it was her that made me realise I just need to stop, slow down, take a breath, take one day at a time. But because I didn't actually really know what I was in for, I was really quite distressed. And I think that probably was one of the hardest times, because I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And because it was such an unknown thing, I just couldn't help but think the worst.
Yeah.
But I realised that I just had to stop thinking that way, because I was making myself worry, sick through worry. And so it was from that Facebook group that then I actually started interacting, because I realised that there were people just like me in that group.
So it was that peer support that you got from that Facebook group that sounds like helped you turn it around and start moving towards a positive direction as you progressed, and something that the medical professional, when you sat the doctor and told you diagnosis and talked about your medication, probably wasn't able to provide that element of support. It's multifaceted, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but the medical team that I saw were amazing, and I felt really, really supported in a medical way.
Yep.
But one thing that I actually did mention to them was that there didn't seem like a lot of emotional and psychological support, but I definitely received that through the Facebook group.
Yep.
And through that one-to-one peer support that I'd received from that lady. And I remember it was quite late at night, and she was messaging me and said, I'm sorry if I don't reply, but I'm actually camping at the moment with my family, and I don't know if I'm going to have service for much longer, type thing. And I was so grateful for her. I've actually since met that lady. I went interstate and met her, and it was one of the pivotal moments that I realised that I didn't have to feel like I was going to be alone.
Yeah.
Having the peer support through the group really understood me and how I felt, and no one else really could understand that except the people that were going through it like myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jess, you mentioned that your melanoma was caught quite early, which is great news, but obviously it's still quite a stressful time, and a diagnosis that needs to be taken very seriously, as we've already said. Did you have strategies similar to Audrey that helped you cope and get a grasp of where things are at? Did you find that you reached out for support?
I did, yeah. So I was fortunate. My doctor actually gave me an MPA brochure or card. I can't remember. I think it was a brochure. And along with a whole lot of other reading material. And yeah, so I, obviously went through that quite a bit the first few days, and was absolutely just so worried, waiting for those results after the WLE. And so I went into panic mode, and that's when I actually did utilize. I thought, okay, MPA, that sounds great, because I didn't know anything about it. None of my friends had experienced it or knew, and most of my friends were interstate as well. I was fairly new to the area, So, you know, I was speaking to my best friend a lot, but she didn't really understand, and I didn't want to freak her out either. And so MPA was great. I'm so glad that I called. And I got really great support from the telehealth nurse at the time, who I spoke with quite a bit, and she really talked me off a ledge, you know. Those first few months, like I was scared to even sit near a window. Like I was just so freaked out by it all. And yeah, so I didn't really have a strategy. I didn't know how to cope, but thank goodness that I was given the information for MPA, because that became a like really pivotal moment for me in the early stages of, you know, how to handle it, how to think about it, you know, the right way, and not get too freaked out, because I was early and it's all good, you know, it's all good. And yeah, and then you sort of have that guilt, like, oh, well, it is early stage, and I feel really guilty that I'm lucky, and so many things go through your head, you know, or because I've had it early, am I going to get it later? Is it going to come back, and is it going to be worse? And all those things, you know. So yeah, talking to someone that really understood what they were talking about for a start and had been through similar things, there's nothing better.
Yeah. No, I hear you absolutely. And it's great to have people like Audrey, for instance, now, who's a trained peer supporter. So Audrey was one of the first cohort, I guess you could say, that went through our listening link training, which means she is on our books to provide one-on-one peer support if someone's looking for that connection, to hear from someone that might have a similar situation. So we might have someone who says, I'm diagnosed with 3B and I'd like to get connected to someone like that. And so we would look at who we've got in our connection, and it might be Audrey. So that's when we'd be able to link them together and get that process moving forward. I guess one of the things that I also think about, though, as well, people like yourself, Jess, who's helping us as an ambassador to spread the word, which is amazing. And Audrey, who, you know, you're going through your own journey as well, and you're both working. Audrey, what actually motivates you to kind of give back? Like, you've now had the support. Is there anything specifically that keeps you going and has that motivation to continue and provide that volunteer peer support?
Definitely. So I'm someone who likes to help people regardless. And they say that, you know, you don't volunteer because you have time, you volunteer because your heart's in it. And that is definitely one of the reasons why I volunteer with MPA. If I think back to my early days, and speaking to someone who understood what I was going through made such a difference. They said it was okay to feel the way I felt, rather than, and they said it from their heart. They didn't say it just because that's what the textbooks was telling them to say. And like I said, our medical professionals are amazing. But to speak to someone who truly understands the feeling, like that sickness in the bottom of your stomach, that, how do you explain that to someone? You can't explain it. And if someone has felt it, then you feel connected with them. And I want to be able to help others like I was provided the help. And if I can help just one person, then I know it's been worthwhile sharing my story.
Yeah.
But I also wanted melanoma to be more widely spoken about, because even though I had skin checks and I knew that I was checking for bits and pieces, I really didn't understand exactly what the word melanoma meant. And if I can make a difference by being involved, and I take every opportunity to explain about skin checks and being sun smart and make a difference to the future for our kids,
yeah,
that is exactly why I do it. And so that no one has to actually feel how I felt, really. In an ideal world, that's where we would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Audrey. That is real true reflection of yourself. You really encapsulated that giving back, and I know that we are so fortunate at MPA. We have not only the two of you on screen, but a huge group of more people wanting to give back, which is amazing, because we can support them to support others. But we have people coming to us all the time wanting to know what they can do. So if you're listening today and, you know, you want to give back as well, like Audrey and Jess, please make sure you do reach out. And we'd love to work out what that might look like for you. It might not be trained volunteer peer-to-peer support. It might be something in a different capacity, and it doesn't always have to be long-term as well. It could be certain events and that kind of thing too. it's great that you've been able to lead those peer support one-on-one support, Audrey, and the fact that you also do the groups, which is great. But Jess, I'm wondering if you've got any more feedback you'd like to give our cohort of those who are in the earlier stages. And you mentioned a little bit earlier on about, making sure that you still get checked, and we want to spread the word. But have you got any words of advice or things that you would like to give your younger self when you were diagnosed at the beginning, for someone who might be just starting this journey?
Yeah. So I think firstly, going back to that guilt that I sort of felt being lucky and being early and all clear and all that. Like for anyone just receiving an early diagnosis, to not dismiss, if you are scared, it's so valid. And sometimes it can be harder in the closed group. There's a lot of later stage patients in there. So, and it's so different from like where we're at. So you sort of feel guilty, like, oh, I don't want to talk about my fears or my worries, because, there's people in worse spots than us. And, don't get held back in that. There are people in the same stages as us. There's people in all stages of their diagnosis and their journey. Don't be afraid to reach out and speak to someone in an early stage as well, that's perhaps been, someone like myself that has been through it now for a few years. I've got my head around it and it's great. And I've got my plan, and someone that is going to be able to tell you, yes, I've been there, it's going to be okay, how to manage it. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. And if I could give my younger self any advice, it would have been to stay out of the sun, not have solariums as we did back in the 90s and early 2000s, and get a bloody skin check. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
it's 5 minutes. Do it. It can save your life.
I hear you. Yes, I know we all feel like we're spreading the word, but there's definitely more that needs to go out there for this younger generation too, coming through. So hopefully with ambassadors like yourself, Jess, we'll start to break down some of those barriers and get the word out there. Absolutely. Audrey, what about you? Do you have any lasting feedback you'd like to tell the community, or any thoughts to share before we finish off this evening?
Well, exactly like Jess said, we just want to spread the word, and like I said, I take every opportunity to help educate others, and especially school children. I volunteer at school, and so I often tell children on school excursions about being sun smart and how much sunscreen you're meant to use. But one of the things that I really learned is with MPA is that the motto is that you never need to feel alone, and the support services that MPA provide actually is exactly what I needed. I'm sure that there is some sort of service that would be suitable for everyone. There's the support line, which is 1300 88 44 50. There's the melanoma nurse for telehealth, and there's also the melanoma community Facebook page. We run monthly support meetings. We get on Zoom. Sometimes we chat about melanoma. Sometimes we chat about the weather. Sometimes we chat about life. But just to get online and know that there are other people there that know what you're feeling and they want to be there for you is a wonderful feeling. So I would never like anyone to feel that they need to do this alone, that there is always some sort of support available.
Yeah. Thank you, Audrey. And I know where to come when we're ready to get our commercial going. Knowing that you know the number and it can quickly share it with anyone is exactly how we want our trained peer supporters to be. So thank you. No, in all seriousness, thank you, both of you. And as Audrey mentioned, we do have the telehealth nurse, which is outside of the peer support realm, but has that medical support in addition to all the other support services, peer support services. And for more information on all our support services, the best place is to go to the MPA website. And for those playing at home, it's www.melanomapatients.org.au, and you just need to follow the support tab from there. So referrals into Listening Link, the brand new program we've launched now tonight, can be made now at this very moment if you wish, And that can be done via self-referral or referral via a health professional with consent. And it's done directly on our website on the referral form that's automatic and on the web page. So I'll make sure that there's a direct link in the comments of this Facebook Live, so you can all go to that, but it will be on the listening link page where you can go and fill out the referral form, and then one of the MPA representatives will be in contact to discuss the next steps. And as I mentioned above, the way in which we were able to get this program off the ground and make it possible was through our supporters and our sponsors, the Apex Foundation, Bristol Myers Squibb Australia, PFFab, and MSD. So thank you. And last but not least, the stars of our show today, Jess and Audrey, for taking the time out in your busy schedule on an evening that's in the busiest month of the year. So extra stars for that. Thank you, Jess, our ambassador, and Audrey, our trained volunteer peer supporter. So from the team here at Melanoma Patients Australia, thank you all for supporting us towards our mission of a world where no one affected by melanoma walks alone. And I wish you all a safe and happy festive season, and good night.